Thank you very much, Chairman, for those very warm comments and welcome. Members of the head table, the awardee this morning, specially invited guests, students, and ladies. I am very honored to be here today. I am very glad to be in Tobago. This is the first time I am in Tobago for a Men's Day conference and a Men's Day observance. I have been in other countries and also in Trinidad during this time, November the 19th. Today I speak to you with a heavy heart. I have been championing over the years, for the last 16 years, positive achievements for men. And as one of our speakers said, we see some of the headlines today. We see about suicides. We see about murders. Right now, Trinidad and Tobago has recorded more than 350 murders for this year. And for the past few years, we have been crossing the 300 mark. I see, just recently, a 12-year-old boy being forced to drink disinfectant. How could this be happening in 2015 in Trinidad and Tobago? How could this be happening anywhere in the world? And I wonder what progress I have been making. Sometimes I wonder if I am hitting my head against a wall, a hard wall. And I wonder sometimes about the progress that we are making. And for those of you all who believe in evolution, I wonder if we have evolved. Because not even the animals treat their young so, and other animals so. And I am concerned about that. This morning I also want to welcome the women. And I want to also tell you that International Men's Day is not just about highlighting positive role models. It's also about trying to reduce that gender gap, that gender division between boys and girls, between men and women. You all might know the title of that book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. There's always this feeling that there's a mystery between the way men react and how women react, and about how we behave. And you see what has been happening over the years, and sometimes the media pushes this. If you watch some of these movies, sometimes on cable TV, they have something, the Lifetime Movie Network, you get this perception that men are perpetrators of violent crimes and that women are always guilty too. And you know what is happening? Right now, and for the past few years, there's an ongoing gender war. There's a gender war between men and women. And what is even more frightening, the men are not united as yet. How could we transcend that barrier between men and women, and the men are not united? Men are divided along racial and ethnic lines. Men are divided along religious lines, along class lines, geographical lines, men who live in the rural areas and urban areas. Men are divided so much. Men are divided. A few days ago, Hollywood actor announced he was HIV positive. Now, in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean, we have been more accepting. 2 decades ago, it was a shame, it was a stigma, a stereotype. Now in the workplace, we are becoming more accepting. And this is what Men's Day is about. It is embracing men, it's accepting men from different walks of life. Poor men, wealthy men. Men who have different physical features, short, fat, handicapped, physically challenged, mentally challenged. All men are welcome in this day. And I have been communicating with coordinators from around the world, from developed countries, from developing countries, like here in the Caribbean, and the women have played a very important role. And I've told the women this too. I have women in the United States, in England, parts of Africa and India, who are helping coordinate this Men's Day. And why women are so important is that the feminists are no longer aggressive towards this day. The feminists are no longer frightened and concerned that this Men's Day is anti-woman or anti-female. So it's very important because International Men's Day is about family values. We cannot talk family values if we do not bring in the women and talk about the children and the students. So this is why women are so important. But I am glad that Mr. Stewart is focusing on the men, because the men have issues to work out. The men are not united as yet. There is no unity. We are still fragmented. Today, I want to tell you that you are no longer a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. You must no longer see yourselves as a Tobagonian. You are a global citizen. You have heard about the global village. What you do today will affect the future generations. What you do today, the world might know. It might be posted on Twitter. It might be posted on Facebook. You are a global citizen, and you must be careful of what you type, of what you say, of what you speak. It could come back to haunt you. And I want to talk a bit about the media. The media has a very important role to build the positive images of men. This morning I was very glad when I switched on the television and I saw the Rise and Shine program on Channel 5. And they were highlighting some of the important male personalities like Abraham Lincoln, Nelson Mandela, Albert Einstein, some important leaders. And you all in Tobago and the rest of the Caribbean need to also see where in our Caribbean history we had important men and highlight these men. The media has a very important role to find out the good men. We have thousands of men in Trinidad and Tobago who are doing good work, volunteer work. They are going into the hospitals, they are reading to the sick, they are ministering to the poor, and these men are not highlighted. Yes, our sporting heroes are highlighted, but the men who are doing simple, humble tasks are not highlighted. When I started up this day, November the 19th, I did it for two reasons. Firstly, some of you all might remember in this room, some of you all might be too young. In 1989, November the 19th, we were playing United States World Cup qualifying game at the National Stadium in Port of Spain, and the color was red. Trinidad and Tobago was red, and we were united. Those who were not in the stadium were outside. We were united. You might still see some maxis with the strike squad, and we might still have those jerseys too. It was a time when we unite. It was a time when there was harmony in Trinidad. And after that game, the harmony died down. And I have seen incidents where men would unite. When Brian Lara broke those records. Even Dwight York in Tobago, when he scored those goals, anytime he scored a goal, you felt proud. Anytime somebody from Trinidad and Tobago won an Olympic gold medal, or a bronze medal, or a silver medal, we felt proud. When Trinidad and Tobago won the Nobel Prize with Vidya Naipaul, we stood back. Whenever we qualify high in a Miss Universe competition, we feel proud as a nation. And this is what I want you to do. I want you to go back into your past. I want you to see if we could build unity and maintain that unity. Unity must not be something that is temporary. And unity amongst men is very fragile. I would see men united at a cricket game, a football game. I would see men united at an NGO like a Rotary or Kiwanis or Lions. And after that, the unity is gone. I would see this country united for Carnival. And after that season, that unity disappears. And I wonder why we cannot find a solution, a recipe for unity for men to unite us and keep that unity permanent. We need that. Mr. Cadet asked, what is a man? And Mr. Jack, he referred to a mature man. And this is one of the issues I want you all to think about today and to think about for the rest of the year and next year. What does it mean to be a man? Am I a man? Am I a boy? What does it mean to be a teenager? Men here, go and ask your sons. What does it mean to be a young boy? What does it mean to be a young man? Real men don't start wars. Real men are not violent. Real men don't hit women. And real men don't fight. Real men never ignore social problems. Too often we live in a comfort zone, you know. Sometimes we might say here, well, that is Trinidad problem, you know. Those murders and things, we live here peaceful in Tobago. Some of you some people in Trinidad might say, well, that's a Tobago problem. Or that is a Jamaica problem. Or that is a Grenada problem. Or that's a problem for Paris. Or that's a problem for United States. I told you all you're a global citizen. Real men don't ignore social problems. If you see poverty, if you see unemployment, that is a problem for you to try and solve. If you see suicides, if you see domestic violence, if you see bullying and peer pressure in the secondary schools and primary schools, that is a problem for you to solve. So I want you to go home and think about that. What does it mean to be a real man? Some of you all might have heard the term macho man. What does it mean to be a macho man? Is a macho man a real man? Some of you all might have seen those advertisements for cigarettes and alcohol companies and Stag, you know, trying to create a real man. A real man drinks this beer. A real man smokes that cigarette. I want you all to go home and think about that. What does it mean to be a real man? Is it wearing the latest fashionable clothes? Is it driving the latest cars, fashionable cars? Is it living in a gated community? I want you all to go home and think about that. Think about it for the rest of today. Am I a real man? Sometimes we might be wearing a mask, you know. We're not a real man, you know. We're wearing a mask of a real man. And we're giving the image of a real man. I want you all to think about today some of the physical and mental problems that men face. Men often undergo a lot of stress. They suffer from emotional breakdowns. They suffer from depression, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. Sometimes men might ignore physical problems. Sometimes they might say, I don't have to go and check for prostate cancer. I'm having a little pain in my chest. I wouldn't bother about that. I don't have to go and check for diabetes. I'm a man. I have to be strong. And you know, sometimes we are diagnosed with an ailment and we tend to cover it up. We still continue our lifestyles believing that we are macho men, that it will not affect us. And today I want you to reflect on that. The mental and physical problems that often affect masculinity, that often affect men, and we often ignore. And I also want you to consider this. And maybe the members of the THA might want to consider it. Is the government doing enough to provide counselors for our men? Is the government doing enough to provide counselors in our primary and secondary schools? Is the government doing enough to provide counselors at our tertiary institutions? For the past few years, we have been hearing about computers in our schools. And I believe computers are good, but counselors should come before computers. We have these problems in our schools. I also want to ask the government, and I want the THA to find out about this. We need drop-in centers for men with problems. Just as we have homes for women who are battered, we have homes for women who are victims of domestic violence. I want to ask you now, do we have homes for men who are having problems like this? You know, often I would ask people, I would say, you know, how did that man become a vagrant? And they would say he had a mental breakdown and he ended up there. And I would ask somebody, I say, but I recognize that person. How come he's homeless? And they would say, you know, the courts put that man out of his house. And I'm asking us today, we need to go and revisit the court system. We need to go and find out, why are we not providing proper medical and psychological and emotional care and support for our men? We need to find out, why are we not having something like a mobile ambulance to visit the rural communities and villages in Trinidad and Tobago so that men could be tested for physical ailments. Sometimes men might have a fear. They might have this fear in their mind that people will laugh at them if they have a problem. There's a stigma and a stereotype. Could you imagine a man goes to a police station to make a report to say that his wife just beat him? You know those police officers will laugh at that man and say, man, catch yourself, eh? You're the man in the house. Right? Could you imagine that? Could you imagine, right, a student in class going up and saying, Miss, this girl hit me. Miss, this girl kicked me. Miss, this girl punched me in my belly. What do you think the miss will say? On worse yet if it's a sir. So this is what I want you to examine. We talk about gender equality, but are we really treating our young boys the same way? Are we really protecting them? Now you see, if we ignore our young boys and our teenagers and young men, if we continue to marginalize our young males, what we are doing, we are having a recipe for a violent, aggressive generation. This is a recipe for a violent, aggressive, non-caring male who believes that society has given up on him. So I want you all to reflect on that. Do we really just talk about gender equality? Is it something superficial or is it genuine? Are we really promoting gender equality in our schools and in the workplace? Could you imagine a man at work? Could you imagine a man at the THA saying he's complaining of sexual harassment? But people will laugh at that man. People will say, but that's a woman's problem, or we could be talking about sexual harassment at the workplace. So I want you to understand that the media is very important, the government is very important, the family unit is very important. And I also want to mention to you the issue of violent games. Some of our young people play these games. Now, when I was growing up, they had Atari and Nintendo. And now they have PlayStation and Xbox. And on the computer, you have these online games. These games are extremely violent. These violent games where you are equipped with guns, you are equipped with knives, you are equipped with bombs, and you are trying to destroy an alien, or you're trying to destroy some rival or enemy. I don't think we in the Caribbean understand the socialization process that occurs when many of our young boys and young girls play these violent video games, these violent online games. It creates a psyche. It creates a mindset of destruction and violence. So I want you also to consider that. How come we are allowing so many violent games? How come we are allowing so many violent movies to be aired on our television and in our cinemas? International Men's Day is a movement that is global. It has transformed lives. It has enriched lives. I like the concept that Mr. Stewart earlier said about moving to other Caribbean islands. I want to support him on that. And I want to tell you all in closing, it is a time for action. It is a time for action for all men to come together now. It is a time for action for us to put aside our differences. It is a time for action for us to unite. It is already too late. The present generation is suffering. I do not want to know in the next 20 years that things have gotten worse. The time for action is now, now, now. I thank you.